Thank you, team ET Auto, for a wonderful event. Thank you, Mr. Enzweiler. I was very keenly listening to your speech, and thank you for mentioning probably the word charge points for more than 10 times. And your very expressive hint on the need of charging infrastructure probably makes my job a little easier today. Well, my name is Kartikey Hariyani, and I'm from ChargeZone, and we have also another company called BillionE Electric Mobility. You can see actually a truck waiting outside doing cocktails tonight. You won't be able to test drive, but certainly you can actually take a round of this amazing innovation done in collaboration with Ashok Leyland. But let's talk, or rather let's try to address the elephant in the room. Much has been talked about the EV charging infrastructure in the urban cities. Even the discussions have been around the suburban areas in the Indian landscape. But as ChargeZone, when we started in 2019, I'm glad we focused on one important thing, was to enable intercity e-mobility in the country. We decided to focus on high-speed charging networks for four-wheelers, and I'm glad we have stayed on course without getting distracted by multiple other opportunities as well. Well, today, in the next 10 to 15 minutes, let me try to attempt to take you through one engaging question: why India would need not just charging infrastructure, but a high-speed or a supercharging infrastructure across the country's landscape. You've been seeing, watching green number plates for the last 4 to 5 years on two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and four-wheelers. Recently, you have seen more of these electric buses. I'm glad and was delighted to hear a number that the number of electric buses is more than the ones in Berlin put together. But this commercial mobility, which is a need of an hour, probably stands over and above the personal mobility that India needs. And while we speak about the adoption of electric vehicles by Indian customers or Indian corporates or Indian industry, there has always been a lingering question about what comes first. Well, there is no chicken and egg question over here. It's a charging infrastructure that you need to build first. In other words, you build highways before the vehicles fly on it. You need to build charging infrastructure before you bring electric vehicles on the road. However, let me take you through a quick introduction about ChargeZone. We, as I said earlier, we are currently India's second largest EV charging network company. We have left the competition to decide who's number one. So I'm quite relieved on that. Our focus still remains on course to put up 10,000 charging stations, which probably stands to roughly 100,000 charging points by 2030 in the Indian market. Our journey has been very, very eventful. Let me quickly come to the partners that we work. Some of them are right here today in this room. And these partners include automotive OEMs, utility companies, and so to say that there will be names like Mercedes of the world, Audis of the world, Hyundai, and so on. But I'm glad that companies like Tata EV, which has been our recent partnership, also one of the leading players into the mass market adoption of electric cars in the country. But more so, I could see that one of the contractors is missing, but our focus has largely been providing EV charging as a service. In other words, our business model is that we invest and build EV charging network, and we actually sell electrons and not molecules. So with more than 20,000 kilometers, or rather 30,000 kilometers of highways electrified, you can actually drive from Amritsar to Chennai using EV charging, using ChargeZone without any range anxiety. And the electric truck outside actually has used our network from Chennai to Delhi, passing through Bangalore, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, and have just arrived. And some of you might be at Amazon Sustainability Summit today. You will be seeing a couple of trucks over there as well as part of the Golden Quadrilateral trial that we are doing with both ChargeZone and BillionE coming together. Also, you'll have the opportunity to meet some of my colleagues, Mahib Jain, who's from Macquarie Capital and has backed us last year through one of the marquee investment into ChargeZone along with BII. And I must say, we have one of the best core team or leadership team bringing a lot of insights to the e-mobility market as we evolve as an organization as well. Some of the glimpses of the charging stations. You will not find a ChargeZone. I mean, there was a question that why our app does not show amenities. I said, well, wherever you find ChargeZone, there are amenities because it's a default. In other words, EV charging is actually an experience by itself, as most of us have already realized. And one of the key focus of ChargeZone is to build or put up charging stations at restaurants, on the highways, for example, at various places at the urban locations where you'll always have 20, 30 minutes to spend for a cup of coffee or even a masala dosa. Moving forward, let me now take you to the most daunting question. And before I take you there, this is one of the marquee flagship project under co-capex, co-branded version with Audi done a year ago in Mumbai. Some of you might have seen this. This is actually a supercharging station and a cumulative capacity of 400 kilowatt powered by a solar rooftop as well. Also, we were a bit lucky to get a regulation right in time in the state of Maharashtra to get access to green power to this charging station through the Mumbai-based discoms as well. And with this, let me come to the point of supercharging stations on highways. Typically, a supercharging station is defined as a capacity which is 180 kilowatt and above. You will see very usually this station is a usual sight on European highways, for example. Probably it's not much in India yet. And one of the reasons is that we as a country are a country of micromobility. We're also a market of small cars as well. That's the reason in charging station, you'll find a usual on average capacity of 30 kilowatt or a 60 kilowatt gun. And you won't find a 120 or 240 kilowatt or even higher than that. Well, as on date, we have commissioned 7 different supercharging stations in the country where cars don't really stop. It's actually the buses or intercity buses between Bangalore and Chennai, between Hyderabad and Vijayawada, also between Delhi and Chandigarh. These are the early, twin cities where you are seeing an intercity electric mobility flying on those routes as well. Well, these are the early signs of what e-mobility is going to shape our country. We were actually hosting Mr. Gadkari earlier this year, and I was just mentioning to him that can this be now a national priority before it becomes a national emergency. As a country, we import $200 billion worth of crude oil. And early estimates indicates that by 2030, if the new EVs are electric, just 30% of that are electric, we will save enough, that is roughly $60 billion, that will power up our healthcare and education budget per year on year, probably for generations together. Now, these figures are just an indication of how the policy will shape up the market, will shape up the industry and the adoption of commercial EVs as well. But we are honestly a very, very boring company. We are brick and mortar guys. Yeah? We only deal with energy infrastructure. We deal partly with technology. Technology generally is a backend. We make the EV charging so seamless, unmanned, app-driven, so that even a driver or a chauffeur or an electric vehicle owner, whether it's a man or woman, can easily charge their vehicles. And we saw over a period of time when we are currently running more than 5,000 charging points on our network, including our partners' EV charging points as well. Now, for this commercial e-mobility to take shape, and I'm not talking just about last mile or first mile, we're talking about a mid-mile that includes electric buses and electric trucks. Well, a very, very small number, and this has not come from McKinsey or BCG or Deloitte. It's just come from a very simple pen and pencil experience of setting up the first initial phase of our charging station. We are actually doing 15 such supercharging stations across some of the highways in the country. We have done 7 already. And if and then one of the early estimates indicates that in the next 7 years we'll have probably 15 to 20,000 commercial EVs, that is buses and trucks. When I say buses and trucks, I'm not talking about mini buses or mini trucks. I'm actually talking about 55 tonners, 19 tonners, a 13.5 meter or a 12 meter electric bus, and so on. And if 20,000, and this number looks really very small, isn't it? Yeah. Compared to the varied market size that we have across the length and the breadth of the nation. Well, if we are to talk about only this number, the EV charging infrastructure itself is a task by itself. We'll be looking at nothing less than several millions of dollars of investment that is required in a charging infrastructure, and you may wonder why. As Mr. Anzuler mentioned about India need to take a priority on the charging infrastructure. Of course, I'm not mentioning about the urban charging points. I'm not talking about the charging points at your societies. I'm actually talking about the serious public charging infrastructure which are not broken, which are reliable, powered by green energy, and so on and so forth. And I thought, let me just give you this concept, because sometimes when you put a pencil to the paper, you start realizing that what actually a charging station will require. Because you are actually seeing some of those brand boxes in the market, right? And honestly, I'm not personally excited, because not only it talks pretty bad about EV charging infrastructure, but sometimes it also makes things very clear that we need to probably set our priorities right. We are also pretty excited about the PM E-Drive scheme out of $1.35 billion, around 10,000 crores, which has been set aside, out of which roughly 2,000 crores is likely to be allocated for EV charging infrastructure. And for the first time, it will not be through PSUs, but it could be directly funded through public-private partnerships. Well, at ChargeZone, when we started, we never thought, or never based our calculation on any of these subsidies. I'm glad to share that we have not taken even single rupee of subsidy of any kind from the government. It's not about our concept of free market economics, but it's also our concept of free experimentation as well. We bought in CCS2, where the focus was GB by T, CHAdeMO, and all kind of things that we saw in FAME 2. I won't say it was a not so well researched policy 5 years ago, but probably it was also a lack of knowledge, lack of experience of all of us put together. But today, for the first time, I can see that PM E-Drive scheme has some of these priorities made very, very right. Of course, there were some complaints about the personal mobility not getting any subsidy and so on. Well, I think India did not move vehicles. It needs to move goods and its people. Therefore, public transportation and commercial mobility will be rather taking more priority than the personal mobility. Typically, a supercharging station, as I mentioned earlier, if we talk about 50, 60, 120 kilowatt, I don't think it's going to make any impact in the marketplace. Today, as ChargeZone, we have done anywhere from 360 kilowatt to 1.2 megawatt of single site on a charging station, backed by a battery energy storage, backed by solar microgrid to make it green, or trying to bring in RE integration as much as possible. And on top of that, we are not seeing the layer of technology which powers this charging station, which is your charging management system. We call it ChargeCloud actually, which runs this network of charging stations. Now, why we are speaking, or we need to think about this very carefully, because a large commercial EV vehicle is typically a battery size of 300 kilowatt to 500 kilowatt per vehicle. And even if you take a 1C or 1.5C charging rate of the battery, you will still require a 240 kilowatt charger. And I'm glad that as Indian engineers, we have done some small jugaad. A jugaad called, there is a dual socket on the truck and bus. I'm sure some of you might have noted. In fact, you can see this one on this truck as well. You won't see this in a truck in Europe, by the way. Yeah, and this was just a very clever design to bring the charging time by half, even without taking a fancy route of expensive C-rated batteries and so on. So while we are probably blessed with some of the serious engineering talents in the country, but we probably sometimes fail to address the infrastructure right, and that's what we are trying to do as ChargeZone along with our partners in the country. Now, when we talk about such supercharging stations, we are also highlighting the need of RE integration, renewable energy integration. And thankfully, we have a green open access corridor where we can source solar or wind through the power exchange. For us, battery energy storage is no longer a backup because we believe 100% reliability, but it's also becoming a source of power when you bring RE and battery put together. When we signed up with one of the intercity bus operator, well, he had a very difficult question for us. He says, look, I can't bring a bus and make a pit stop at your charging station and I'll be stranded with 40 passengers in the bus. Well, the industry talks about 99% reliability. Well, we had actually a very difficult proposition. We said it is 100% or nothing. And therefore, BESS or battery energy storage systems came very natural as a part of our integration at some of our charging stations. Well, to sum up, it's actually a very, very compelling business opportunity. But before that, these are some of the photographs that you see on the right are the actual charging stations on display. And the reason I'm saying as a compelling business opportunity because each of these charging station is nothing less than $1 million in terms of investment. The country needs nothing less than 5,000 such charging points, which we are actually talking about minimum $500 million of investment just to begin with. So with this, I like to thank Team ET Auto for this opportunity and thank you for your time today. Thank you.